Hey guys, welcome back to Matthews Ballistics. Lately, I haven't posted much. I didn't post anything over the weekend like I normally do. Didn't do a video or anything of going out and shooting. But I did take out the Browning 454 Casull and with the new Riton One Conquer optic on it. And I did some experimentation with shimming the scope base, the hard steel scope base that goes on connects to the barrel and the receiver on that rifle. And anyways, with my experimenting doing that, didn't work out as planned. Didn't work out like I wanted it to. The shimming part did raise up the back and give me about 25 or 24.8 MOA of adjustment. But the problem was is that it wasn't a solid enough connection between the base and the rifle doing it that way. So my shots were not grouping very well. They were all tracking vertically the way I wanted them to, but the horizontal was all over the place. With every shot, it changed. So I took the shims off, put the scope base back on, mounted, torqued down everything, and then remounted the scope, leveled it, torqued it down, and shot. And I was able to put 20 rounds in an inch and a half group using just some HSM barrel loads, some 325 grain lead cast bullets at 100 yards. And these loads have always proven to be very, very accurate, and very precise, but they are very underpowered for 454 Casull. Even out of the 28-inch barrel, we're talking like maybe 1,500 feet per segment, or a little bit more. Where my other loads, my hand loads, are going, usually I'd keep them about 2,050 feet per second. It seems to be the most accurate spot, and I get like relative like the same accuracy and precision out of them, but with a lot more power. and and to give that some perspective out of a handgun, these HSM barrel loads with a 6.5 inch barrel are usually doing about 1,200 feet per second, and then my hand loads out of the same handgun would be getting about 1,700 feet per second, or more, 1,750 sometimes. So huge difference in power, but as far as accuracy and precision goes, I've I've been able to load very, very hot rounds just as accurate as these light loads. After getting that zeroed and everything, I went ahead and when I brought the rifle home, I went ahead and actually, because I was shooting it actually in the rain, went ahead and cleaned it up and made sure I oiled it really well so that it didn't rust or pit or anything. And I went ahead and took the foregrip off and the stock off and cleaned in between all the layers on that and stuff too, just in case any moisture had gotten down in between the wood and the steel of the rifle. And then when I put it all back together, I went ahead and tightened it and torqued it all back together, which is really important on firearms with these traditional old wood stocks, is because the wood can, depending on humidity outside and temperature and everything, can swell or shrink, and you can go out one day and the stock may be kind of loose on it, and you go out one day and it may be tight on it. It just depends. So I went ahead and made sure everything was secure the way it should be. With that being said, I didn't get to go shoot any 338 Lapua. I'm still working on this. I need to test the theory that I've got. Is that the reason why my grouping is not very good with it is more than just a barrel harmonic problem. I'm actually leaning towards maybe it's a scope problem. And on my 338 Lapua, It came with a Vortex Strike Eagle 5-25 by 56 scope on it, which is they MSRP at $900, so they're you can usually pick them up for 800 or maybe a little under $800, and I'm thinking maybe that scope just gave out on that rifle. It's a possibility. So my plan for testing this theory is I took one of the Arken scopes off of a 6.5 Creedmoor and I put it on the 338 Lapua. I'm gonna have to go out and zero it and shoot it a few times. And if the rounds are still hitting all over the place, I'm not loading any more than I've already got. I'm gonna go ahead and just shoot and do the tests with the rounds that I've got loaded, because 338 Lapua bullets are very expensive and sometimes hard to come by. So I'm going to go ahead and just use up the ones I've got, even though they are test loads. I'm just going to have to sacrifice them for re-zeroing the rifle. I am going to bore sight it as best as I can, but we're going to test it with the Arken scope on there. And if it comes back and the test results show that, hey, there's nothing wrong with my loading at all and that the groups are perfectly fine, that everything comes in real tight with the new scope on it, then I will know that the Vortex scope is indeed bad. And I can contact Vortex and either have it replaced or repaired. Um, in which case, I kind of like, after I have it replaced or repaired, whichever the case may be, I may be leaning towards taking it and then just selling it for the price of putting another Arken on this rifle, because I'm really liking the Arken scopes. And when it comes to practicality of having the exact same scope on multiple rifles, there's a little bit of a point to that. In my opinion, is that you are very familiar with that reticle and that scope, and it's the same on all your rifles or most of your rifles. And if something was to happen to one of them, you would be able to take and just swap the scope from one rifle to another, and get rid of the damaged one. And then, if you had to, you would know exactly how that scope operates and everything that goes into getting it zeroed and then goes into shooting long range. So I'm kind of tempted to do that, and I may end up selling the Vortex scope. There's nothing wrong with the Vortex scope, but I actually have noticed that there is a significant difference in clarity between the Arken and the Vortex, and the Arkens are actually have better clarity. Both of the Arkens that I have, and they're the same scope. They're the SH4 Gen 2 6 to 24 power by 56 millimeter, and both of them are they have better clarity than the Vortex. And I'm not trying to say that Vortex is bad or anything, or that it's overpriced. It's still a really high quality scope, and as far as I know, the durability is there. But on the other hand, that Vortex scope was on this 338 Lapua that has maybe 120 rounds shot through it, and if it becomes the case and becomes apparent that the Vortex has failed at 120 rounds through the 338 Lapua, it doesn't matter how good Vortex's warranty is. If they will replace it or repair it, that's fine. What it comes down to is possibly every 120 rounds having to get that scope warranted out and replaced, and spending downtime on waiting on that. I don't want to be in that situation. I'd rather have a scope that I bought one time and serviced the entire life of the rifle, before it needed a new barrel or something. So that's just something you have to think about when you're putting scopes on rifles, and the amount of money you're spending on that. And the amount of money you spend on scope doesn't necessarily mean that it's tougher or more durable when it comes to really heavy recoiling rifles. The single shot 454 Casull Does not have a muzzle brake on it at all, and it is a heavy rifle. It's about 9 pounds, not quite as heavy as a 338, which is weighing about 20 pounds rigged out, but it's about 9 pounds. And with some full house, full power 454 loads, it definitely has more recoil than the 338 does. It's the recoil impulse is way more intense, and even with a Simmons 8-point scope on that 454 rifle, that scope held up well into, upwards of 100 rounds of some heavy loads that I know that scope was not designed to handle. But it was impressive. It still held up great, and I ended up actually selling it cheap to a buddy of mine that was in need of a scope, because I was ready to upgrade to a little bit better, higher quality scope. And so I went with the Riton 1X Conquer or whatever. Here's the box on it. This guy here. And for a 1-inch tube, the quality and clarity is really nice. It's a really nice scope for the money. And I will do a full separate review on that in a couple weeks or so. I'm probably going to take that rifle out this weekend and really get it zeroed and really shoot it at 200 and 300 yards to see how it's tracking and make sure everything's working great with it. With that being said, this week, while I've not been making videos, I've been loading ammunition to take out and test, and I've been loading a lot of actually 223. I have some new Lake City brass. I mean, it's brand new brass, but it's old. The date stamp on it's like 2011, so it's a solid 10, 12 years old now. So yeah, LC 11 Lake City brass, and it's brand new brass. But I've been loading a lot of 223, trim it all, and everything down to the right specs, and loading 223. And I've been loading some 50 grain VMAX. And I'm going to be taking those out and testing them in my bolt action 5.56. So, which I've come to really enjoy shooting that rifle. There's no recoil to it, and it's just fun to shoot. It's really accurate. Even with store-bought rounds, it still shoots sub-minute groups, like under an inch at 100 yards. With that being said, I still have the Arkin bullets that come in the pill bottle, the Patriot pills as they were. And it's kind of clever, actually, to put them in pill bottles, because pill bottles are like, you can buy them in bulk, and they're relatively inexpensive, just cheap, and they would serve well for storing or bullets in. Then you can print these sweet little labels. So I think Alco bullets, like, that's a great idea. That's a great concept. The Patriot pills. And so this right here is a 77 grain Alco Precision rebated boat tail ultra low drag bullet, and according to them, it has a G1 ballistic coefficient of 0.512, which is really high for a 223. So it says recommended twist rates 1 and 7. The twist rate in my rifle is 1 and 8, but I did talk to Bill at Alco Bullets, and he said that these very likely will still stabilize fine in a 1 and 8 twist. They just recommended 1 and 7. So I'm working on some loading for that and seating depth and whatnot, and I've kind of figured out. So this is what it would look like seating depth wise. These are going to be a single feed only, obviously, because look how long this thing is sticking out of the case. And that is with the rebated boat tail fully seated into the neck of the case. And then your powder would go in there with that below it. I didn't want to seat the bullet super deep because, you know, if I was to seat it to a magazine feeding length, it'd be probably right in there, and you see how much of that base of the bullet is down inside the case past the neck. I would worry about some powder burning issues at that point. So that's kind of what I've got going on. I haven't started to load those yet. I'm just playing and doing some research and try to figure out what I a good starting point would be for loading that bullet. And they're not ever going to fit in the magazine. These are the bullets that I am loading right now. These are the 50 grain VMAX, and so you can tell that is a huge difference in bullet length. Also bullet weight. This one's over 50% more weight. And I also have a 62 grain version of that bullet, of the 77 grain one. It's a little bit shorter, not a whole lot, but 15 grains less weight, and it has still a really high G1 ballistic coefficient, 0.450, and I'm planning on doing some testing with those as well. So got some things in the works, got some things going on. I'm going to take the 338 out this weekend. We're going to test the arc and scope on it, take the 454 Browning out, and shoot some more of these hard cast bullets out of it and shoot them to 200 and 300 yards. See if it's got enough adjustment to get these slow moving bullets out to 300 yards, because they are dropping a lot after about 150. They start really falling off. And I'm going to take the 5.56 out and test it out with these 50 grain VMAX and see what we can do at 100, 200, and 300 yards with it. So hopefully I get to spend a nice long day at the range, but chances are it may get cut a little short and I may have to stop midway through, but we're going to try and we're going to see how it goes from there. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. This has just been a little bit of an update. I'm sorry for not being able to do the testing that I've been promising on doing, but we're getting there. We're going to get there. We're going to get through this. We're going to get into the testing. So we'll see you next time. It's been Matthews Ballistics. See ya.